Right. So today, we're going to be diving deep into love and emotional needs.
Oh, interesting.
Specifically how love or a lack of it can really make or break a marriage.
Yeah.
We're going way beyond those kind of like surface level ideas of romance and flowers and all that
Right.
to really see how love is, so deeply connected to our need for things like security, self-worth, and even significance, like how important we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So for this deep dive,
Yeah.
we're looking at a fascinating chapter from a book about relationships and communication.
Okay.
And get this.
Yeah.
There's this couple in the book who've been married for 35 years.
Wow.
They say they've never even had a fight with
35 years and never fought.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Right.
I mean, good for them.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
They also say they don't feel loved.
Oh,
So
wow.
how is that even possible? You think peaceful marriage equals loving marriage, right?
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, you really would.
What if they're missing something? Right? Like, what's the missing link here?
Exactly.
It's such a fascinating paradox. I mean, it's like one of those things that just makes you think,
I know.
But what's really interesting is how the book actually kind of highlights this crucial role that love has in supporting those really basic fundamental needs.
Okay, so you're saying that instead of love being like the icing on the cake, it's more like a core ingredient.
Yeah,
It's like the flour.
Mm-hmm. More like the flower.
It's just essential.
Yeah, when you genuinely feel loved, it really does strengthen your sense of security in the relationship. It makes you feel validated, like you're worthy as a person.
Mhm.
And it even reinforces how significant you are, not just to your partner, but just in the world,
In the grand scheme of things,
Right.
so I'm with you. I'm starting to see how love is so much more than just, a feeling.
Right.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's deeper.
The source also talks about love being this like liberator.
Interesting.
So is the idea that it kind of like empowers us to grow as people?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Like we become better versions of ourselves through love.
Think about it this way. When you feel secure and accepted in a loving relationship,
Yeah.
you can finally let your guard down, right? You don't need to be so defensive all the time.
It's like you can finally breathe.
Exactly. And that creates such a safe space for personal growth
Oh, I like that.
and for honest communication, which is huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
So it's not just those warm fuzzies. It's also about having the freedom to kind of, evolve and just become the best version of ourselves.
It is.
But what happens when those core needs aren't being met,
Right.
through love?
Yeah. What happens when love isn't there to kind of, help us with those things?
Does the relationship still feel secure,
Well, unfortunately.
or does it become kind of rocky?
When those core needs go unmet, the opposite happens.
Uh-oh.
And this is where things can get a little messy.
Yeah.
Differences between partners, they start to get magnified. And instead of seeing each other as allies, they start to see each other as threats.
Oh, no.
So, harmony goes out the window and you've got this, conflict and resentment that just starts building up.
It's like the opposite of everything we just talked about.
Yeah. And this is where things get really challenging.
Okay, so if love isn't there, nourishing those core needs, what takes over?
Well, it becomes less about supporting each other's growth
Yeah.
and more about protecting yourself, like
Oh.
self-preservation almost.
Right.
Which brings us to Jean and Norm from the book.
Yeah.
There are a couple that really illustrate this struggle.
Right. The couple we mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
35 years in marriage, no big fights, financially stable,
Right.
but super unhappy.
Yes.
Jean even describes feeling unloved, neglected. Like her and Norm are basically just roommates.
Oh, wow.
And the way she talks about their routine, it's like you can just feel this distance between them. Like
Yeah.
they're living separate lives.
Mm.
And then you have Norm,
Yeah.
who's totally confused.
Right? He's like, I cook, I clean, I do the yard work. He thinks he's doing everything right,
Yeah.
to show Jean that he cares.
Of course he does.
So he's like, why isn't she happy?
Right? He's like, I'm doing all the things.
I know.
What more could she want?
And it's like they're speaking two different languages when it comes to love.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
They're just not on the same page.
Yeah, they're not speaking the same language.
Exactly. Not at
It's
all.
like a communication breakdown.
Totally a communication breakdown. And that's actually where this idea of love languages comes in.
Oh, love languages.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of it. But honestly, never really dived into it.
Okay. Well, it's basically this idea that everyone has their own special way of, expressing love and also receiving it.
So it's not that Norm isn't showing love to Jean.
Right.
It's just that he's maybe speaking the wrong love language.
Exactly.
Like he doesn't know the right dialect or something.
Yeah, it's like he's speaking Spanish and she's speaking French.
Uh-huh. Yeah, perfect analogy.
So Jean and Norm's case is, a really classic example of this clash.
Okay.
The book really highlights how Norm's love language is something called acts of service.
Acts of service.
Yeah, so he shows his affection through practical things, doing tasks.
So like all the chores he does.
Yeah, exactly, like the cooking, cleaning the yard work.
Okay.
But for Jean, her love language is quality time.
Oh, interesting.
She craves that focused attention, those deep conversations, shared experiences.
I see. So all the chores in the world aren't actually speaking to what Jean needs.
Right. Like, it's nice that he's doing those things.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not making her feel loved.
It's not hitting the mark.
Not at all.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what about the other ways people experience love?
Right.
The book focuses a lot on acts of service and quality time. But I feel like there's got to be more, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Those are just 2 of the 5 main love languages.
5. Okay, so break it down for us. What are the other 3?
Okay, so we've got acts of service, we've got quality time,
Mm-hmm.
then we've got words of affirmation.
Okay.
This one is all about, verbal expressions of affection,
Wow.
encouragement, appreciation.
So like compliments.
Yes, exactly. Compliments, words of support, even those little, thinking of you texts.
Oh, those are the best.
Right. They make people with this love language feel so seen and valued.
It's the power of words.
Yeah, exactly. The power of words.
To really make someone's day.
And then we have gifts.
Oh, this is a good one.
Now, this isn't about just buying expensive things.
Right.
It's about the thought behind the gift.
The thoughtfulness.
Exactly. For
Yeah.
someone with this love language, a gift, no matter how small,
Yeah.
is like a tangible symbol of love.
Yeah.
It says, hey, I was thinking of you. I care about you.
This reminds me of this one time I got a gift for a friend, and I thought it was perfect.
Oh.
But it turned out to be totally wrong for them.
Oh, no.
And I realized I hadn't been paying attention to their love language at all.
Yeah, sometimes we miss the mark.
Big time.
It happens to the best of us,
It does.
but it just shows you how important it is to really be mindful of these differences.
You're right.
And last but not least, we have physical touch.
Oh.
This one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's about expressing love through physical closeness, like hugs,
Yeah.
holding hands, even just a touch on the arm.
Yeah.
For someone with this love language, physical touch is super reassuring.
Yeah.
It makes them feel safe and loved.
Okay, so we've got these 5 love languages. 5 different ways that people experience love.
Right.
What's the biggest takeaway here?
Well, the main point is that even if we're trying really hard in a relationship, if our efforts aren't aligned with our partner's love language,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work.
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle without knowing what the picture's supposed to look like.
Yeah. Exactly. You might have all the pieces, but without that framework,
Yeah.
you'll never see the full picture.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
But the good news is that Jean and Norm's story shows us that even with these big differences,
Yeah.
they were able to find their way back to each other.
Really?
They did.
So after 35 years of speaking these different love languages, they were able to turn things around.
They were.
So how'd they do it?
So the book says it all started with understanding.
Yeah.
Norm finally realized that while his actions, were coming from a good place,
Yeah.
they weren't actually meeting Jean's need for quality time.
Right.
He had to learn how to speak her love language.
Which meant fewer chores.
Well, kinda. It
Yeah.
meant shifting his focus from tasks to shared experiences and conversations.
Oh, I see.
Really being present with her.
That must have been a big change for him.
It was a huge adjustment.
Yeah. I imagine it's not easy to just switch up how you express love.
Especially after so many years.
Ah.
But the book really emphasizes how those changes made a huge difference.
So even though it was tough, it was worth it
Totally worth it.
because they were finally speaking the same language.
Exactly, and that's what it's all
So
about.
it's more than just saying, I love you.
Way more.
It's about making sure your actions are speaking that same language.
Yes, and making sure you're speaking a language that the other person can actually understand and feel,
Yeah.
you know?
So it's meeting their needs in a way that really resonates with them.
Exactly. And what's really cool about all this is that it applies to all kinds of relationships.
Really, not just romantic ones.
Nope, not at all.
So we can use this idea of love languages with our families, our friends.
Even colleagues, yeah.
Wow.
It's like a universal tool for better communication.
I like that.
But here's the thing. the book also makes it clear that while love is powerful,
Yeah.
it's not like a magical solution to every problem.
Oh, okay. So if love isn't the only answer, what else do we need to make relationships work? Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? Like, if love isn't the only answer, what else do we need?
Right.
What are those other, magic ingredients that help relationships really work? You know?
Well, one that's super important, and you see this a lot in Gene and Norm's story, is communication.
Oh yeah, communication.
But I'm not just talking about like, talking to each other.
Right.
It's more about like really listening to your partner,
Yeah.
trying to understand their perspective and responding to their needs.
So it's almost like love builds the house, but communication is all the stuff that makes it livable.
Exact.
Like the plumbing, the electrical wiring,
Right? It's what makes it functional.
Yeah.
Without good communication, even the most, loving couples can really struggle.
Right.
It's about being able to express your feelings clearly,
Yeah.
listening with empathy and being open to compromise.
Compromise, that's another big one, right?
Yeah.
Being willing to, meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you and your partner are two separate people
Exactly.
with different needs and desires.
You got to find that balance.
It's funny you mentioned compromise.
Yeah.
I remember a therapist once told me, you can be right or you can be in a relationship.
Oh, wow.
It's so true, though.
It is.
Sometimes it feels like you have to choose.
Sometimes you do.
And those compromises, sometimes they take time.
They do.
Which brings us to another key ingredient, patience.
Patience, yes.
Because change doesn't happen overnight.
Especially after years and years of, doing things a certain way.
Right, like Gene and Norm.
Yeah, exactly.
So patience is about giving your partner the space and time they need to like adapt and grow even when it's hard.
It is.
It's about trusting the process even when it's messy.
It's like gardening.
Oh, I like that.
You wouldn't yell at a plant for not growing fast enough, right?
Right.
You nurture it, you give it the right conditions, and you trust that it will bloom in its own time.
I love that analogy.
And just like a garden needs good soil relationships, need trust. That's the foundation for everything.
If you don't have trust, it's like the whole relationship is built on sand.
Exactly. It just crumbles.
And trust is about so many things. It's about believing in your partner, being reliable,
Yeah.
keeping your promises.
It's also about, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sharing your true self, even when it's scary.
But knowing that your partner's going to be there for you.
Exactly.
Oh, and we can't forget about shared values.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like having those common goals and dreams.
It's like you're both rowing the boat in the same direction.
I love that.
Shared values are like that compass that guides the relationship.
It gives you that sense of purpose, like you're in it together.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it makes facing those challenges a little less daunting.
And maybe, just maybe a little bit of humor couldn't hurt.
Oh, definitely.
Like laughter is the best medicine, right?
It really is.
Especially when things get tough.
Being able to laugh together, even during the hard times, it can really bring you closer.
It's like a reminder that you're not alone.
Exactly.
So to sum it all up, it seems like love is the heart of the matter.
The most important ingredient.
But it needs all these other things to really thrive.
Yeah, like communication, compromise, patience, trust, shared values.
And a little bit of laughter.
Exactly. It's about actively nurturing the relationship,
Putting in the effort.
not just assuming that love will conquer all.
Right.
And I think the most important thing is being willing to put in that effort.
Because relationships are worth it.
They are.
They're like the most rewarding things in life.
They really are.
But they do require dedication and commitment.
And a willingness to grow together.
It's about showing up every day and choosing to love and be loved.
That's it.
So listener, what about you? What are those essential ingredients that make your relationships work?
What have you learned from your own experiences?
Both the good and the bad.
Because the best relationships are the ones that we actively nurture.
And cherish. Well, that's about it for our deep dive into love and relationships.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope it gave you some food for thought and maybe even some new tools to use in your own life.
Remember, love might not be the only answer.
But it's a pretty amazing place to start.
It is.